Hello, hello, and welcome to today's Commonwealth Club program. We are doing it virtually like we've been doing for the last 6 months now. My name is Raj Mathai. I will be your moderator tonight. I'm also the lead anchor at NBC Bay Area. As the club continues to do virtual events, right, it is the sign of the times. We are grateful for the continued support of our members and our donors. We hope that you will also consider making a donation online, or you can simply text us. Text the word donate to 415-329-4231. I'm pleased to welcome John Mackey, the co-founder and CEO of Whole Foods Market. John has always been a leader with great awareness, integrity, and humility. And actually, I read his book just recently. It really pops out. This is a business leader, but also someone that really wants to lead by example, almost to a soulful purpose here. Since 1980, Whole Foods has been an incredible growth and innovation, has seen so much growth and innovation, including its acquisition, or as John likes to say, its marriage with Amazon. In his new book, Conscious Leadership, Elevating Humanity Through Business, John reflects on his own vision, virtues, mindset, and leadership in both business and society. We'll be discussing a lot in the next hour, and we invite you to be part of this discussion. We want to hear your questions and your comments. We'll send it directly to John so we can talk about it as a community forum like we do at the Commonwealth Club. So without further ado, by the way, you can do it right there in that chat function on the right of your screen. So without further ado, let's try to bring in John Mackey, the CEO of Whole Foods Market. John, nice to see you today.
Good to see you too, Raj.
So I guess nowadays, before we talk about anything, it's just kind of the way we are in society now. How you doing? How you feeling? And are you staying optimistic through all of this?
I'm personally, my health is good. In fact, my health is really good because COVID is a wake-up call to get your immune system stronger, and I'm super healthy right now. I got back just recently from a 9-day backpacking trip on the Pacific Crest Trail up in Washington. It was very beautiful. So I feel very fit, and yeah, I'm doing pretty well. But 2020 sucks. It's been the worst year of my life. I think that's probably true for many people in America, millions and millions of people. It's been a terrible year. It's been very challenging, and we still got 4 months to go. So I'm looking forward to turning that calendar page.
Yeah, I think you speak for a lot of us. It's interesting just who you are and what you do for a living, being at a market, something that we all go to every day or every week. You really see Americans on the ground floor. When you go into your own markets or just talk to your employees, what is the sense that you're getting? Is it just, gosh, we got to get to 2021, or is there some deeper sense and emotions that are coming out?
Well, it varies a lot around the country, right? I mean, Whole Foods is it's in all the major cities in the U.S. People are afraid. The COVID's got people really shook up and they're scared. And our stores have always prided themselves on being places that people like to come and hang out. And now everybody's masked up. We got social distancing. Stay 6 feet away from everybody. So people, they're either shopping online. Our sales have tripled online in the last year, or they have come in with a list and they grab their food and it's just a transaction and they get out. So it doesn't have that magical experience that I think Whole Foods is somewhat famous for. Yeah. So the team members, it's been difficult. I mean, they've got to wear masks every day for, on their shift for 8 hours, and they got to go temperature checks every day. And they're supposed to be social distancing, so they can't connect with people as well. It's been a difficult year for everybody, but you know what? They have jobs, and so many people don't have jobs. So many of my friends have lost their businesses in the economic shutdown. So it's been a painful year for a lot of folks, and obviously a lot of people have died as well. So it's been a very difficult year.
You talk about just people coming in there with their grocery list. I would ask this for any leader of a grocery store, Safeway, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's. Prices have gone up considerably in these last 4 to 6 months. What's the easy explanation for that?
Supply chain problems. And it's like supply hasn't been, it's been difficult to get the supply. And we forget food, the grocery stores don't make the food. I mean, we don't grow the fruits and vegetables, or we don't bring the meat and seafood there. You have to get that from farmers and ranchers and fishermen. And They've been affected by this virus as well, and there's been such a shift in the supply chain. I mean, think about it. I mean, so many Americans used to eat out. I mean, 50% of a lot of people's meals were eaten out, and that just pretty much disappeared completely. Whole Foods is prepared foods, and our stores dropped 75% when COVID hit. All of our salad bars, all of our hot foods, self-serve bars, they were all shut down. So there's been a huge change in people's habits. People are cooking more at home. And I just think a lot of that food inflation has been due to a supply crunch and competition for it. So I think it's there everywhere, and that'll settle back down again as we get normalized again.
Hey, John, you wrote this book recently. First of all, you're a busy guy. Why sit down, write this book? I know it's not an ego thing. From everything I know about you, you're not an ego guy. Why write this book? Who you trying to help, and what's the real goal here?
Well, one way to view this book is, I'll give you a couple perspectives on it. One is that it's a sequel to Conscious Capitalism, which published 7 years ago, back in 2013. And that's kind of helped start a movement. We have a nonprofit, consciouscapitalism.org, and it's a lot of people are thinking of themselves as conscious capitalists. But the business people, they want to know how to be more effective as a conscious leader. It's one thing to have a theory about being a conscious capitalist, but how do you live it? How do you do it in your own business? And we have 2 chapters in Conscious Capitalism on conscious leadership. And I get asked the most questions about that. And so it became more and more obvious to me that people wanted a lot more about conscious leadership. And, I've been doing this business for 42 years. So, and I've had my own journey, right? My own personal journey of becoming more conscious, growing, learning, making a lot of mistakes and learning from them. So this was kind of a download of what I've learned to share with people. It's partly what you leave behind. It's partly just helping the world try to be a better place, a more conscious place.
CEOs don't really last for 40 years. What did you do, and what are you doing?
I started my own business. That's one way you can last.
Even ones that start their own business, as you know. In fact, we'll get into some of the points where you had some dark days at Whole Foods where you thought you might be blown out. What did you do?
Well, one way to think about it, and I do think about it this way, an entrepreneur creates a business is kind of like creating children. Whole Foods is like a child, and I don't have any biological children. So Whole Foods is my child. That's how I think about it. And it's, part of it's just taking care of it and helping it grow and reach its highest potential. If you told me back when we started up, when I was 24, when I started the business, if you'd told me, 42 years later, still going to be doing this, I probably would have run away and said, the hell I am. No way. I'm getting out right now because I got lots of other things to do. But the years have gone by rapidly. So, and I've had so much fun. I will tell you, building a business is very hard, but it's a lot of fun too. It's very rewarding. And I've watched people start out with the company as teenagers at 20 years old and watch them rise up and grow and get promoted and earn more money and buy houses and raise children and have grandchildren. That's been so satisfying. So it's been a great adventure for me. I'm not making any predictions, but it's going to come to an end sometime in the next few years. I'm just getting too old to do it.
You talked about one thing that stood out. A few things stood out of the book for me. January 2001. Take us through this transformative day as you arrived in Florida for a board of directors meeting, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong. Quote, I went from riding the momentum of my natural skills to becoming a truly conscious CEO. What does that mean? And what happened January 2001 in Florida? Because there was a thought that you might be on your way out.
Right. That's the very introduction of the book. And there was a coup. There's no other way to put it. I had one of my senior leaders who'd worked I'd worked with him for 16 years and thought he was a friend. And he worked with a couple of the board members. We had we'd started our own internet company called wholepeople.com back in the .com boom. And then turned into a bust, and we sold off what was left of it. While I was working on that, I moved to Boulder, Colorado, and he stayed in Austin, and he got used to kind of running the company. And when I came back, and he really wanted to keep running it, I think. And a couple of directors didn't like me, and they tried to basically get me out, and it failed. The board rallied around me, and those two directors left, and that executive left. But it was a total wake-up call for me. It helped. Crisis is the greatest opportunity we have in life to grow. And generally in a crisis, people are afraid, and so they want to go back to a safe place. And I found in life that it's far better to lean into the crisis. It's far better to open yourself wider and lean into it. And if you do, you have a great opportunity to become more than you were before. It's just the best opportunity you have, but it's scary because you're in no man's land. You've never been there before. You could fail, you could fall. It's very scary.
This could be more timely because we are in a crisis right now, nationally and internationally. Crisis. You also wrote about the post 9/11 crisis where Hotels.com was born and other things. What kind of things are you seeing now that could be born from this current crisis that we're in?
This is one of, in my lifetime, I would say in the United States, this is the biggest crisis America has faced in my lifetime. And people are scared. They're scared of COVID. They're scared of fires. They're scared of riots. People are frightened. And there's great divisiveness in the country. There's different political views, and they're banging against each other. And so in some sense, I think our book is timely because what America needs is more conscious leaders in business, conscious leaders in politics, in education, in healthcare, in the military. We need leaders who will lead with love. We need leaders who will look for win-win-win solutions, try to find the higher ground that can unite Americans instead of us going to war with each other. I'm not saying that's easy, but that's what the times call for. And we need people to step up. We need conscious leaders to get up and lead and to get out there and try to bring more love to this situation and more looking for ways that we can all win and move forward together. And it's very challenging times right now, but that's what's being called for. Conscious leadership is being called for right now. And that's why I think our book is very timely.
You do talk about love in this book and just loving your journey, loving your colleagues. Is that something, is it something that works? Is it tangible? Or is it kind of something like, oh, okay, there's John again. He's doing his meditation. He's growing his hair out long or whatever there is. Does it really work in this day and age?
It does work. And it works at Whole Foods. We've been doing it for a long time, 40 plus years. And, one of the 100 best companies to work for 20 consecutive years. Whole Foods is a special place. It's not perfect. I'm not holding it up as a saint or the utopia because it's not. But we have a lot of love released in our company. And I talk about how we end all our meetings with appreciations, which is a gateway to opening up to love. And team member happiness is one of our core values at our company. So we're constantly seeking ways to help people to flourish in the company. That there's this, we'll call it a myth out there, because I think it's a myth, that somehow or another business is this cutthroat, competitive thing, and you can't care about anybody else. It's just a bunch of greedy bastards running around trying to make as much money as possible. And that may be true for some people, sociopaths, but that's not the way most organizations operate. Most businesses they're creating value for all their stakeholders. They're creating value for their customers, for their employees, for their suppliers, for their investors, for the communities that they're a part of. It's not a win-lose paradigm. It's a win-win-win. It's a win-win-win. That's the essence of what business is about. It's just not seen that way. And business people themselves sometimes don't see it that way. But that's how Whole Foods operates. And that's what we're trying to communicate in the book. There's a different and better way to be in the world.
Truth-telling stood out to me. You brought up a story about Ford Motor Company and how they perhaps weren't being quite direct and honest with their employees, and then they flipped a switch. What was the switch, and how did it happen?
Well, they got a new CEO, and in that story, the new CEO, Ford was losing a ton of money, but he would be going through the reports on their goals, they'd be showing all this green, like they're being very successful, and not a lot of red. And he said, "This is bullshit. How can we be losing all this money every year and have all these goals be green? This is dishonest." And so he brought a new way of thinking to the organization that brought integrity back and truth telling. And that ended up being transformative for Ford at that time.
It's difficult just in this political, and not just the president, but a lot of politicians. There's one set of fact, and then there's another set that they might tell the public. How do you navigate trying to tell CEOs and coach businesses through this when the political landscape is so questionable nowadays?
I think it's easier for business people. When I talk about this, business people, remember, they are dealing with stakeholders every day. And so the paradigm that needs to shift is that the stakeholders are kind of struggling with one another. It's this win-lose framework that some are winning and some are losing. It's this polarity of opposites, that if you get rich, somebody else is getting poor. If you're successful, somebody else is losing. And that's not the way business generally operates. Business is operating most of the time where you have multiple winners. So customers are winning. They're trading with the business voluntarily for their own gain. And businesses are incented to give customers better pricing, good service, high quality, or they'll go shop at a competitor. So businesses create value for their customers. They can't create value for their customers if they're not creating value for their employees, because the employees are the ones that create value for the customers. And the employees aren't forced to work there. They do so voluntarily for their own gain. Investors invest because they're looking for returns, and business has to produce profits for the investors to want to continue to invest in the business. Suppliers trade with the business, and I can tell you stories about all the suppliers that have begun trading in Whole Foods Market and then became very successful because we were a gateway for them selling all over the United States. And then there's the communities that we're part of. We provide, businesses create jobs. They do philanthropy. They give taxes to the communities they're in. All of these constituencies are winning. It's not a win-lose game. It's not a game of trade-offs. It's a game where all of them are simultaneously winning. It's win-win-win. And so that's a different paradigm than the way people think about business. And if you talk about politics, it could be the same way. If we had political leadership that was seeking win-win-win all the time as their framework, that all of us are winning. All of us are winning. You're winning, I'm winning, we're all winning. If we create strategies for that, America will pull ahead. We'll get past where we are right now. As long as we're pitting in this war against each other, we're going to be flailing around. We have to think about it differently. We need new thinking. We need conscious leadership.
You're going to announce you're running for office right now? You can do it for the Commonwealth Club. You can. This could be your platform, your big announcement.
I'm going to stick to business. I'm pretty good at that. I think I'm be pretty big failure as a politician.
Speaking of business, we're getting some great questions from the people logged on here. One of them is, how is Whole Foods adapting to changing consumer habits, especially now post-COVID? That's a great question. Are you changing what you have in the stores, or how we're purchasing and how we're spending? What's the answer?
Well, we certainly have changed during COVID. What we don't know is what it'll be like when we're post-COVID. I know that seems like a weird thought. We're going to someday be post-COVID, but we will be. I feel certain a year from now, we will be post-COVID, and probably much sooner than that. But so during COVID, our online sales have tripled. Our prepared foods, our salad bars, our hot bars, that dropped 75%. I mean, it just disappeared. All the offices that would come in to eat lunch, they just closed down. We don't have any lunchtime prepared foods traffic, or very little. But our meat, our seafood, our produce, our grocery, they all exploded because people were at home cooking. They weren't going out to restaurants. And so they started buying more of these other foods. And, we all know the story of toilet paper running out of stock, and it took a while for the supply chain to adjust to that. But, and obviously hand sanitizers ran short there too, but now the market's adjusted for that as well. So it's definitely changed. And when we're post-COVID, people, they're going to come back to grocery stores in person more than, I mean, we'll still be buying online, but less than we're buying now probably. And people are going to go back to restaurants and bars when they feel safe, because we like going to restaurants and bars. We're social beings. We don't want a social distance the rest of our lives. We want to hug people and we want to shake hands and we want to be with our friends. And so once people feel safe from this virus, that's going to all return, because that's just who we are.
Hey, John, obviously your track record speaks for itself with such a successful company, but I do like to hear those dark days, those dark moments that helped shape you, and perhaps you made a misstep, and how did you recover from there? You talk about in the book in 2017, those dark days. I think it's JANA Partners, the New York hedge fund, activist investors, they tried to kind of take over, but instead it led to the merger with Amazon. What stands out to you from that chapter of your life, professionally and personally for that matter?
Well, a lot. So I'll tell you the story. I'll tell the audience the story. So one way to think about this is the dark days that happened before then were back in 2008 and 2009, when we had that massive recession and the stock market collapsed and our stock price dropped 90% from where it was. And as a result, Whole Foods Market was selling as a public company for what was 2 times our own cash flow. You could have bought the whole company and paid for it with our own cash in just 2 years. So this was a very scary time for us. And we took in some private equity funds to give us liquidity. And then the world started to begin to come back again. And as that happened, our sales went way up. We went into double-digit same-store sales. 10%, 12% comps, and that's a very high number. And what happened as a result of that, the biggest mistake that Whole Foods ever made, is we should have been dropping our prices at that time, and we didn't do it. And we were so successful that we got so much more new competition, and they began to underprice us, copied a lot of our marketing, got a lot of our products in, and so competition really increased.
I remember, what was the old joke? Whole paycheck, right? You go in there and you spend a lot of money.
Exactly. And if we'd cut our prices back in 2009 and 10 and 11, if we were coming back, we may never have gotten into the JANA problem. But we didn't do that. So that's a big mistake. That's a life lesson for me. And also one of the things that we're correcting now with Amazon.
Was there someone in the boardroom telling you, hey, John, we suggest we slash prices, and you said no? Or did you suggest, hey, maybe we cut prices, and someone pushed back and said no? How was that decision made?
It was like, Raj, it was such a heady time, because remember, our stock price had dropped 90%. And now every quarter we were having really strong same-store sales, and the stock price kept going up and up. And so it's like, it doesn't seem to be broken. Let's just keep doing the same stuff. That was our great opportunity, because we could have lowered our prices then, and our stock price wouldn't have gone up so much. Our investors might have been slightly less happy, but that was the right long-term move. We just didn't see it. And we didn't see it because times were so good. We didn't anticipate it. We didn't see what might happen down the road. But what happened was our competitors began to undercut us in price, picked up more of our products, copied our marketing. And as a result, our same-store sales slowed down, our profit growth slowed down, and our stock price began to fall. And that brought in the shareholder activists, who then wanted to take over the board, change the management, and sell us off for the highest bidder. And that was a really difficult time. That was extremely difficult. Up until COVID, that was the most difficult time.
Do you think you were going to be out altogether?
I think JANA would have sold us off to anybody that would have paid the highest dollar. And we went through several different scenarios. One was maybe we take the company private. And then we knew what we needed to do was lower our prices. That was what Whole Foods needed to do. But you know what? That's not so easy to do when you're a public company. If you're selling something for $1 and now you want to sell it for 90 cents, well, in the short term, your sales are going to go down and your same store sales are going to go down, because you're not getting $1, you're getting 90 cents now. Now, over time, customers will find out you have lower prices and you'll get it back. But that might take 6 months, 9 months, a year. And the market's so short-term focused on next quarter, it was very difficult for us to do that. So we didn't know what to do. We tried all kinds of different win-win-win solutions, and we weren't sure. We talked to Warren Buffett. He wasn't interested. We take the company private. That was going to add so much debt that we thought that we might bankrupt ourselves. We talked to Albertsons as a potential acquirer, and that didn't work out, or we didn't really want to merge with them. And we weren't sure what to do. And then we thought maybe we're just going to fight Jana. We're going to just fight them. We can win. We can beat these guys. And then one day I just woke up. I've been agonizing over what would be a win-win-win strategy. And I woke up one day, and first thing I thought of in the morning is, I know the answer. The answer is Amazon. I just knew it. And I thought, those guys, I think they want to get into grocery. They're a great technology company. They're wonderful retailers. I wonder if they'd be interested. It turned out they were very interested. We contacted them. Just a few days later, I flew to Seattle with my team. We met with Jeff Bezos and his team, and it was kind of love at first sight. We talked about all the things we could do together, how Whole Foods could lower its prices, think long-term again. And just soon after that, 4 days after that first meeting, they sent a whole team down to Austin. We continued the dialogue, and 6 weeks after that first meeting, we signed a merger agreement.
6 weeks, the courtship, essentially.
It was a whirlwind romance.
What was that first meeting at Bezos' house? You were in his boathouse? What is a boathouse?
So,
Forgive me, I don't know.
Well, you won't be surprised to hear Jeff's got a pretty big house.
Yes, I do know that.
And so the boathouse is on Lake Washington. It's just down from the main house. And so that's where we met, because that would be very private and, wouldn't interrupt the family or anything like that. So we met there. We talked for about 3 hours. And, the Whole Foods team was so impressed with the Amazon team. We thought, these guys are so smart. They think long term. They seem like they weren't the corporate suits that we thought we might be getting. These were just regular people that were really dedicated to building a great company. So,
and speaking of that, you're also casual. Are you in jeans and a polo shirt, or is everyone suited up for this boathouse meeting?
No, nobody was suited up. We were all in jeans and yeah, we were all casual. And it was a great conversation. I always say that it's like when you fall in love, you have what I call the conversation that occurs, where you stay up all night. Yes. You realize, man, I'm really synced up with this person. This is fantastic. Well, that's what happened. It happened between us. And I know when the Whole Foods team, after the meeting, 3-hour meeting was over, we went into a restaurant to process what had just happened. And we were looking at each other. It's like, God, those guys are incredible. They're so smart. They could finish our sentences for us. They really seemed to want to work with us. Yeah. And then it was like, gosh, did they like us too?
Yeah, right. I've been there.
Yeah, exactly. And they did. They liked us too. I found out later that they felt exactly the same way. They were so excited after the first meeting. And that's why we negotiated a quick deal, and we got married as quickly as we could. So, and it's, hey, people ask me what it's like. Is it perfect? And the answer is, it's like being married. I mean, I've been married for 30 years. I love my wife with all my heart. I love about like 99% of everything about her. But, there's the 1% that drives me crazy.
Even 80% would be a big win on that.
It's a pretty big number. I used to say 97%. My wife gave me a hard time about that 3%.
Well, my wife's not here, so I can say 80%. We're okay.
I hope she doesn't see the recording.
What would you do differently with that deal? Because, and I'm focusing on this deal just because it's such a high-profile deal. Amazon, Whole Foods. Going back to 2017, it's been a few years. Would you go back and say, I wish we would have did a few part of the deal parts differently? Is there something that stands out?
Well, you always wonder whether you got the very best price you could have gotten. So you never know for sure. But I think we did. I think we got a good price. I think we got a better price than, we didn't get as good a price as we hoped we might get, but we got a better price than I thought we might get. But no, if you're asking me, if you could do it all over again, John, if you could go back in the time machine 3 years ago, would you still do the deal? And the answer is absolutely. It's been a really good deal for our company. And as I talk in the book, it's been a win-win-win for all of our stakeholders. Our customers have gotten lower prices. Our team members, we increased our pay to $15 starting wage. 90,000 people got raises as a result of this deal. Our suppliers, people, a lot of media said that we were going to stop doing local suppliers. Quite the opposite. We've done even more local suppliers than ever before. And a lot of them now get on the Amazon network. So it's been great for our suppliers. The investors got a big premium over what the Whole Foods stock price was like. And our foundations and our philanthropy, our community commitments, Amazon's been very supportive of all that. So it was a win-win-win-win deal. If I could go back 11 years in the future, my time machine, I'd go back and I would change our pricing 11 years ago, and we may never have had Jan if that had happened, and Whole Foods would be independent today.
Yeah, we got some great questions again. Let me get through some of these questions. Can you talk about a time when you leaned into your conscious leadership style to make a tough decision, where you said, all right, I have two ways to go here. Let me go the conscious way in terms of leadership. And what was that?
Well, I just gave you one example, right? Amazon. That was a tough. Selling the company that you've created to somebody else there's no harder decision an entrepreneur ever makes than that. So I make this joke that basically, we literally, I'm like the father of Whole Foods, and we, my daughter got married to the richest man in the world, literally.
Yes, absolutely. What is, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, there have been plenty of other examples where you had to make difficult decisions. You had to lean in. So back when I talked about the 2009 situation was an example, because we took private equity money from Leonard Green Partners. That was a difficult decision. And we took it in some ways to try to protect the company from a hostile takeover. I said we could be bought at 2 times our cash flow. We wanted to get liquidity and some money in friendly hands, but that wasn't an easy decision to make. That was a struggle, because we took them on our board of directors, and we weren't sure what we were going to get out of that, but it worked out good. I told the story already about 2001 when I had a coup attempt, but I didn't talk about how I leaned into that, because I made a real commitment after that I was going to be a different kind of leader, that I was going to be far more, I was going to bond closer to my team. I was going to step up in my leadership. I was going to have to become more conscious. I was going to have to become a better leader. If I wanted to stay as the CEO of Whole Foods, I needed to become a much better leader.
What were you lacking? What were you lacking, John, looking back on it now?
Well, we won't call what I'm lacking, but maybe what was less developed. How's that?
Sure. Well said.
I was probably, I was younger. An entrepreneur, very driven, maybe not as patient, not as good a listener, not quite as compassionate. I didn't lead as much with love. The biggest difference between then and now is leading more with love, and really making that a big part of how I want to show up in the world. So I really had to develop that. Love is not just an emotion. Love is a skill. You develop love over time, because think about the different qualities of love that we talk about in the book. There's generosity, there's gratitude, there's care for others, there's compassion, there's forgiveness. There's all types of different ways that you have to practice those virtues to get good at it, to get more skilled at. Love's a skill, and the more you practice it, the better you get at it. So I dedicated myself to practicing that and getting more skilled in love. But the biggest mistakes that I've ever made in business, and I think this is probably true for most leaders, they're people mistakes. You promote the wrong person, you pick the wrong person, and then what are you going to do about it? How do you deal with that? The best mistake, the best decisions I've ever made have been people decisions, and the worst decisions I've ever made were people decisions, because ultimately your team is what leads to success. I mean, we talk about in the book at one point about how we tend to romanticize a few geniuses like Steve Jobs or Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Sergey Brin and Larry Page at Google. And these guys are brilliant, but they're successful because they have great teams that they've helped develop, that are leading the company to these high places. I mean, I can tell you, Jeff Bezos is a genius, for no doubt about it. But there are a lot of really smart people at Amazon that work with Jeff, and they really help make Amazon the great company that it is. people like Jeff Wilke and Dave Clark and so many others that I've met, Doug Harrington and Peter Krywick, and there's tons of them. They're just really, really capable people.
You wrote about Jeff Wilke in the book, which was an interesting story about how he just stayed true to what he wanted to do, and eventually the success, or as the society determined success, it caught up to him, but he stayed true to his beliefs.
Jeff's extraordinary, man. He's got extremely high integrity, whip smart. I feel very honored to have been able to work with him. He's leaving the company, he's retiring. I'm very bummed out about that.
And he's one of the CEOs at Amazon, one of the co-CEOs, correct? Yeah. From the viewers now, from everyone in the audience. Well, here's one. What do you admire most about Jeff Bezos or Amazon?
You know what I admire? I admire a few things about Jeff. So first of all, I'm an entrepreneur, and Jeff's an entrepreneur in his bones. And I really like that about Jeff. Secondly, I find Jeff pretty easy to talk to. Not that I talk with Jeff that often, but when I have talked with him, he kind of just shows up as a very authentic guy. I think Jeff Bezos is very authentic, and I like that about him. And I think third, Jeff's really smart. And so I like smart people too. Yeah. So Amazon, I like the way I love many things about Amazon. I love how they think long-term, and very few businesses think as long-term as Amazon. They're thinking out 10 years. And I remember having a conversation about how are we going to be able to do, I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is, but I was saying, I don't see how we can do that. We don't even have that technology. How are we going to do that? And they said, we're going to invent it, and we will have it in 3 years. And guess what?
3 years. In 3 years. Can you just whisper it to us? No one's listening. Okay, we'll go through. Continue here. What is the best professional advice that you received? Again, these are audience questions. What's the best professional advice that you received? And I'll follow up. Who did it come from?
Probably the best professional advice I ever got was my mentor, and that was my dad. When I started the business, I had absolutely almost zero business experience. I didn't take any business classes in college. I was studying humanities primarily. So I leaned pretty heavily on my dad to help me from age 24 to about age 40, about a 16-year period. And, honestly, the best advice I think my dad ever gave me about business, he said, John, you should try to make everything you do from the very beginning, try to make it positive cash flow, make it so it's not burning cash, but bringing cash in. Because if you're burning cash, you're always going to have to go back to these venture capitalists, and they're going to get more and more control of the business. And eventually they'll take control of the business and they'll throw you out, and bring in a professional manager.
It almost happened.
Well, that was after the VCs left. It didn't happen with the VCs.
Got it.
VCs, Whole Foods went public in 1992, and they were pretty much off our board by 1994. And this happened 2000, 2001 when the coup happened. So that wasn't with the VCs. The VCs went away pretty happy. They made a ton of money on their investment in Whole Foods. But my dad was right to not burn cash. And so many entrepreneurs today, I see it. They take venture capital money in, and they talk about a burn rate, and they're just trying to scale up, and they're not trying to make money, and they get diluted down, and they get tossed. I often call venture capitalists, they're like hitchhikers with credit cards. You pick them up in your car, and as long as you get them to where they want to go, they'll help pay for the gas. Yeah. But if you get off track, if you get a little bit lost, they hijack the car and throw you out on the side of the road. I've seen that happen to tons of entrepreneurs over the years. And I didn't want that to happen to me. So instead, we made good money, took the company public, and we got the venture capitalists out of the car.
Resonates especially around here in the Silicon Valley. Appreciate those comments. From the audience again, as a business leader, what concerns you the most about the post-COVID economy? Good question.
What concerns me about I don't have a concern about the post-COVID economy. I have a concern about the COVID economy, which again, I mean, so many people have lost their jobs. It's hard times. So many people have lost their jobs, and so many of my friends have had lost their businesses. They just couldn't sustain the long-term lockdown that we did. So I think once we move past this virus, America is very resilient, and we will come back and we will rebuild. And I'm just eager for us to get to the rebuilding stage, because we're still kind of limping along. Schools aren't fully open, and people are really scared. So post-COVID, what concerns me? Well, we've taken a massive amount of debt on from the government, and that's going to result probably in higher taxes, higher interest rates, maybe inflation. So I'm worried about that. That concerns me.
Yeah, sure. From the audience again, besides higher wages, what should companies do or offer to their employees to retain their employees?
Money is I'm not going to say it's not important. Of course, it's important. But you know what most people want in business? Most people want a sense of purpose. They want to know that their work is making a difference, that they're actually contributing something to value in the world, making the world a better place. So it's important that businesses give people a sense of purpose and meaning. And secondly, people want to know that somebody cares about them. Nobody wants to work for a place that nobody cares about them. So the two biggest things we can do is help people sense of purpose in their work, and also that they have a sense of community, that they're cared about, that they're loved, that they matter as individuals. That's sometimes forgotten, and it's foolish, because people want love, and they want to be, and they want to matter, and they want to feel like they're making a contribution. If you do those things, money is a lot less important.
What CEOs or companies do you admire right now? Maybe not these big global Amazons and Teslas, but maybe some smaller companies that you kind of keep your eye on, just to say, hey, I like what that woman or that man is doing leading that company.
The challenge in that is there's a ton of companies I admire that nobody on this call's ever heard of, because they're private companies. They're part of the conscious capitalism movement. And I mean, they're amazing. I mean, one example is Kaiser Commercial Real Estate in Phoenix, where Jonathan Kaiser wrote a book. He's a friend of mine. He wrote a book called "You Don't Have to Be Ruthless to Win." And his whole real estate strategy is service. He's a servant leader. He isn't trying to, real estate is seen as this cutthroat business, and he's taking the exact opposite approach. So I really admire that. I admire what Rand Stagen is doing in Dallas. He has a business that's called Stagen Associates, and it's a leadership development business where they're helping leaders to learn and grow. And Whole Foods has sent, 20 leaders through his program, and it's been very transformative for them. So I deeply admire what he's doing. There's many, many others, but they're just smaller businesses, because these entrepreneurs, they're not public. They get the purpose, they get the stakeholder theory, they get the lead with love, and they're transforming their businesses. And it gives me great hope that the future entrepreneurs are going to be thinking differently and do things differently than maybe it's been done in the past.
Are you done learning? You're not an old man. Are you done learning? Are you done building, innovating? What do you want to do?
Hey, I love the fact you said I'm not an old man. Rod, you're a super cool dude, man. No, it's all about, I see life as an adventure. It's not very long. When we're young, we think it's long, but it's not young, and not long. As you get older, you discover that. But it's an adventure, and it's so short that we shouldn't play it safe. It's an adventure, and we need to learn and grow. We need to follow our heart. We need to follow our passions. I just think you shouldn't get to the end of the life and have a lot of regrets. Gosh, I wish I'd done this. I wish I'd tried that. I wish I hadn't been so timid. I believe in being bold and going for what you care about in life. Follow your passions, because that's what gives your life meaning and purpose. So if once you find your own purpose in life just gets so interesting and fun. And so find your purpose.
You suggest to your readers return to original sources of inspiration. That was interesting. Meaning go back and refer to old books that maybe you read when you were 20 or 15 or 40, mentors, heroes, poems. Yeah. Explain that.
We oftentimes, you just said it, actually, Rod, you caught it. It's the things that have helped make us who we are, the things that you've helped me revisit, even in this conversation tonight, some of the decisions that we made in the past that helped form our company, Whole Foods, but also helped form me as a human being. And to revisit that, that's why journaling can be important. Journaling is important not only because you're helping crystallize your thinking and your thoughts, but you're also creating a record of where your consciousness was at a certain time in your life. And to go back and read that is interesting because, for one thing, you'll see that you've grown a lot since then. You're a different person now, but you'll also read it and you'll think, I knew some stuff back when I was 30 that I didn't think I knew. And so you see more continuity. It makes you more conscious. When you go back and read books that had a big impact on you, you reread them, it's like part of you is thinking, why did this book have such a big impact on me? It seems obvious, but it's only obvious because it had a big impact on you and you internalized it. And now it's become part of who you are.
I can think of 3 books right now I want to reread from my 20s and 30s. Conversations with people, someone that helped you maybe? Is that part of this, going back and talking to a mentor from 15, 20 years ago?
Who's had the biggest impact on me besides my father, without a doubt, is my wife. I mean, I think you grow. I think relationships teach you more than anything else. And the people that you're closest to, who know you the best, who love you, they can tell you the things nobody else will ever tell you. Right? And your best friends will tell you stuff when you're getting arrogant or you're being a jerk. You need people that love you to tell you, John, shut up, dude. You don't know what you're talking about. I can't believe you said that. You really hurt her feelings. What were you thinking when you did that? You should go apologize. I mean, we need people like that in our lives that help us to grow up and be more of an adult. So my wife has taught me a lot. I like to joke that I'm her big life project. Her job is to make me.
She's doing a pretty good job. She needs a raise, and she's doing a pretty good job.
Doing a pretty good job, but if you ask her, she'll tell you her work's only about half done. And your friends and your family. If you have children are great teachers. They will teach you a lot too.
They certainly are. And journaling is interesting. I used to journal just personally in my 20s, and I stopped. I think I want to get back into it because
pick it up again. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do it every single day. Just do it some. It's a good habit just to spend an hour a week.
Hey, do you go back into your stores daily, weekly? And do you identify yourself, or are you an undercover boss? And what do you look for if you do it?
Well, one of the things I hate about COVID has been the lockdowns because I haven't been touring the stores very much. And frankly, if you're the CEO of a big company like Whole Foods, mostly you just hear about problems every day. But when you go tour stores and you connect with the team members and the customers, that's like totally energizing for me. I love doing it. I love meeting the team members. And I'm not undercover. Even if usually they know I'm coming and they fix the store up, but if they don't know I'm coming, they still it's like a joke. How fast will the word circulate? John's in the store.
Do they have some sort of code? Like,
I've heard some of the stores have a code.
They do. I don't know what it is.
But, I love doing that because the life of our business is in our stores. And I love being with our team members. I mean, I just love connecting with them because they're so amazing and they're taking care of our customers. So I've already decided, since COVID's lingering longer, that I'm just touring. I've got tours set up in the states that I can tour in. I'm in Texas right now, and a lot of the states have quarantined Texans. They won't let us into their states. But in the ones that I can travel to, I'm starting to visit the stores again, masked up, social distancing, not hugging anybody. I'm not shaking hands, but I'm still connecting with people. And I love it. Nothing better.
From someone in the audience, and I'm not sure if this is accurate or not, but we'll give it a shot. Your college roommate said you were a big reader, so much so that you missed a lot of class. What are the most influential books for you? Is that true? And what are the books?
I wonder which college roommate that was.
Oh, nice.
No, I mean, I hated going to class because think about it. I could absorb information a lot faster reading than I could listening to some professor, talk for an hour. And I was like, it was too boring. So I just liked reading a lot more than going to lectures. But the interesting thing about my college education, which is I made a huge decision when I was about 19 years old. I was on track to get a degree in philosophy at the University of Texas. But in every thing, you have to take required classes, right, to get your degree. And I was taking one of those required classes, and I hated it. I did not want to take this class. I hated the class. I hated the professor. I hated the books. I hated everything about it. But I thought, well, I got to take this class. So I got to hunker down if I'm going to get my degree. But I had this argument that went on about a week. I don't want to read these books. I don't want to take this class. You have to. You have to. Yeah. Your parents, mom and dad are going to be so mad at you if you don't get this degree. But then one night I stood up and I threw this book on the ground that I was trying to read and said, I'm not going to read this book. I'm not going to take this class. I dropped the class the next day. When I did that, my life totally changed. It changed because
you never got the degree.
I never got a degree. I have 120 hours of electives. I just took classes I was interested. I audited classes, but I have a great education. It was just completely self-directed. But once I made that decision, I mean, my parents were very angry. I didn't give me financial support after that. But this was a time when, believe it or not, you could go to the University of Texas and it was $100 a semester for tuition. Sure. And so it was no problem. I could work part-time but I did exactly what I wanted to do. But why that's important in this story is I took control of my life at that point. From that point onward, I just did what I wanted to do. And that led me to Whole Foods. I moved in this vegetarian co-op when I was 23 years old. I wasn't a vegetarian, but I moved in because I thought I'd meet cool people in a vegetarian co-op, and I did. Met my girlfriend. A year after that, we started up Saferway, our first store. And I'd found the meaning of my life. I became the food buyer for the co-op. I got all interested in natural and organic, became a vegetarian, and I found my purpose in my life. And I wouldn't have found that if I hadn't started taking control of my life and doing what I wanted to do rather than what everybody else wanted me to do, particularly my parents.
2 follow-up questions on that. Do you remember the book that you threw down?
It was some philosophical tome. It was a philosophy book that was so boring, but I do not remember. I think it was Immanuel Kant's Critique of Pure Reason.
Wow.
Very hard book to read. I don't recommend it.
Pure Reason. And has University of Texas in Austin there, I'm assuming they've reached out to you and said, come on back, speak to the school, and here's your honorary degree. We'll make you a PhD. Professor Mackey.
I've gone back to UT and spoken a number of times in the business school, but they've yet to give me an honorary degree. I think I may need to make a larger donation to them.
We could broker that. Hey, as we wrap this up, by the way, this is we appreciate just your candid comments through all this. I think all our audience does as well. Just in terms of your own health and wellness, I know you're getting into meditation a lot and self-reflection. What are some things that you would pass along to business CEOs or just anyone on this call?
We have a health chapter on that book. It's chapter 8, Revitalize Yourself. And the first tip I'll pass on to you is get more sleep. People, we romanticize in the United States people that get by and work 70, 80 hours a week and only get 4 hours of sleep and drink, half a dozen triple espressos to keep, get going. We're just burning up. People are just burning themselves out. You need to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep, and it needs to be high quality sleep. So that's the first thing. Secondly, don't kid yourself. The diet you eat makes a huge difference. So you should be eating, I wrote a book called The Whole Foods Diet, so I recommend you read that book. You eat real natural whole foods, and it's mostly plants. You can eat some meat, but mostly plants, and it should be whole foods. And if you do that, you'll supercharge your immune system. If you eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, you get a super healthy immune system, and you pretty much begin to resist illnesses of all kinds. I just almost never get sick, and slows the aging process down too. And you got to exercise, right? Yeah. But then you also have to manage. If you're a CEO and you're building a business, stress is so heavy. If you don't know how to manage stress, it's just going to eat you alive. You're gonna get heart palpitations, and your blood pressure is going to go up. You're going to just destroy your body. So you have to learn how to manage stress, and meditation is a great way to do it. But there are other things: music, going for walks in nature, going for long runs, whatever you can do to manage stress is important. I've been doing it for 42 years. I learned how to manage stress. And if you don't, you'll be on the side of the road someplace.
It's hard to know that now, John. You say everything that's accurate, and I agree and believe it. And I think most people do. However, in this pandemic, we just started the call by saying this is the toughest thing we're going to go through in our generation, in our lifetimes. Whether you're a CEO or you're not, whether you're a team member at Whole Foods, whatever the spectrum is, people are under stress. They're underemployed, perhaps. Their kids are at home learning. There's internet issues at home. There's just a lot of stress 24/7 around here.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Really hard. I'll make an observation. I've watched two things happen. They're opposite for people in COVID. One group of people, and I'll put myself in this group of people, it's like, okay, this is serious stuff going on. I got to make sure I get as healthy as possible. I don't want to get this stupid disease. And if I get it, I want my immune system to be able to resist it. So I just got super conscious about doing all the things I just said, eating a super healthy diet, getting my exercise every day, making sure that I was getting enough sleep, and doing more meditation, and just really, really taking care of myself. Because I thought my best way to fight this disease off is to be as healthy as I possibly can. It's like gearing up for a fight and getting as good a shape as I could get in.
That's what we're in right now. Seriously.
That's right. Exactly. But I saw other people go the opposite direction. It was so stressful and so unpleasant that they started eating more junk food. They started abusing themselves with alcohol and drugs and a lot of toxins. They didn't exercise. They were so anxious and fearful and scared that they didn't manage their stress well. So that made them much more vulnerable to the virus and hurt their immune system. So, suicides are up, domestic violence is up. Kids are not getting the same kind of education they were getting before. It's been incredibly stressful, and we've got to move past it. We've got to get back to normality. And maybe that's not going to happen for a lot of people until there's a vaccine, so people will feel safe again. I've already decided I'm out in the world again. I'm masking up, of course. I'm following the rules, but I'm living my life again, because life goes on. There's no complete safe way to live. I'm just living as safe as I can while I'm living. Yeah. I'm tired of hiding. I'm not hiding anymore.
I know, it's tough. Okay, a couple more minutes here as we wrap it up. From the forum, from the audience, are there any new innovations in grocery technology that's sparking your curiosity or that you're looking into implementing? And yes, give us some trade secrets.
Yeah, I can't tell you what we're going to be implementing. We are going to be doing some real cool stuff in the next couple of years. And I'm really
tangible differences that I can see, or is it behind the scenes stuff?
Tangible stuff you'll be able to see. I'll tell you a story. So when this merger was first announced, the general thing was, oh my God, Amazon's going to completely transform grocery. And then a year passes and Harry Potter hadn't waved his magic wand yet, so nothing's going to happen. So people tend to overestimate the impacts of technology in the short run, and they tend to underestimate it over the longer term. But Amazon's continued to innovate and continue to learn and grow and continue to invent. And there are transformative technologies that are coming to grocery. I just can't tell you what they are, but they'll be manifesting over the next 5 years or so.
Well, like you said, I want to do this, and then they just invent it and they just make it. Correct? Amazon.
Yeah. Well, I give you an example. I mean, not for grocery, but that technologies can transform our lives. Is self-driving cars.
Yeah.
It's happening. I mean, Tesla is there. Really, they've made so many innovations in their cars. They're largely self-driving. Other than, you got to keep your hands on the steering wheel, but that's what's going to happen in cars. I think America 20 years from now are mostly electrical cars that are self-driving, and that'll be completely transformative. Better for the environment, less automobile accidents. An old geezer like me in 20 years, if I'm still alive, will not have to be killing people because I'm not fit to drive anymore.
You'll be around. And in Texas, there are no cars. It's all trucks. So we'll get trucks out to you ASAP.
Hey, Tesla's got a truck, a Cybertruck on the way.
I know. You're 2 years away from that. John, it's a pleasure. Well, we look forward to, I think, I've read the book. I think a lot of people will get a lot of joy and encouragement and some knowledge from your book. So we appreciate your time. And next time you come out to the Bay Area, to the actual Commonwealth Club here in San Francisco, please drop by and don't be a stranger.
Thanks, Raj. We end Whole Foods meetings with appreciation, so let me give you one.
Oh.
You did a fantastic job tonight. You are very, very seasoned professional. And I wish you were a news anchor that I could watch regularly, because I like your intelligence and your poise and your confidence. It was a pleasure to talk with you tonight.
I appreciate that. And I appreciate your good energy. I'll take it right back to you. John Mackey, the co-founder and CEO of Whole Foods. Have a great week ahead, and we'll see you down the road, John.
Thanks, Raj. You take care.
Okay, what a great conversation there. We encourage you to pick up your copy of John's new book at your local bookstore. If you'd like to watch more of our virtual programs or support the Commonwealth Club, our efforts here, please visit us online, commonwealthclub.org. I'm Raj Mathai. Thank you, and see you next time.
Bye, everybody.